I mean, every person makes a year-end list into the month of the next year. Shut up.
Candyman. One more. Candyman. Well, we're still alive, so.
This one I really wanted to love, and that's why it's so low on the list, because there's actually a lot of stuff I really, really like about it, in particular Neil Acosta's direction. I particularly love how Candyman feels like a reflection here in comparison to the previous entries into this franchise. My main problem here is the problems I have with a lot of movies like this in general, where the movie, well,
it insists upon itself.
It hits a lot of problem with modern filmmaking where it feels like a thesis statement rather than telling a story in its own right. And that's a shame, because I really fucking love this idea they had, the base idea of the Candyman mythos kind of being different tragedies and traumas kind of mixed together. That's great. The film, unfortunately, does not really reflect on that, and that was really disappointing.
So, let me ask you a question. If you don't know who I am, how come your ex didn't come?
I caught him cheating on me.
Oh.
Yeah, and he said it was because I'm the worst lay in the world. And trust me, he is wrong, okay? You ought to see my moves. It's circus d'Olay.
Okay, well, let's get through lunch first.
I feel like for Billy Crystal, he put a lot of his heart into this. And I feel like with the subject matter of dementia, and for a man of his age, it must have been very personal for him to explore. And I mean, in general, any person at what age they are should probably be a little worried about the idea of dementia, and that in general is just not a very pleasant thought. But he also puts a lot of his ego into this, and oh wow, does that make this a slog to sit through. I think Tiffany Haddish is great, but her dynamic with Crystal doesn't really work for me here at all, and it's very mock sentimentality, it's really eye-rolling, and it utterly takes you out of this story.
It's all gone.
What's all gone? Not the money in my account.
It's not your account for long.
It's in my name.
The name you get to keep, but every penny in that account, in addition to the investments and properties, are going back to the bank.
I heard this film was meant to be like kind of this dramatic comeback from Michelle Pfeiffer after she got into a Marvel, kind of boosted her kind of profile up a bit. If that is the case, then man, I really hope she didn't put a lot of investment into this one. Dismal, smug, and confused as hell. Sometimes the worst films are movies that are boring, but you can see the potential spark of something that could be interesting, and it just does not work at all. Folk horror has kind of had somewhat of a revival. That won't be the last time we'll be talking about this on one of these lists, hint, hint. But this one is definitely folk at its laziest. It's scattered and unmotivated, and the scariest thing about it is with its languid pacing is that it never seems to fucking end.
Given no name, please step forward. We now name thee Snapper.
I feel kind of bad for putting this one on my list, because it looks like it's made by the budget of peanuts. I think it seems like the cast are having fun, at least, but that doesn't really translate into this experience being worth it, because this was a painful thing to sit through. This was one of the most unpleasant experiences I've had watching a movie, and I gotta be honest with myself when I make these lists. Edgy without a point, with an overstuffed cast, and even though this is kind of framing as a horror comedy, it sometimes takes itself a bit too seriously, and then just not at all, where the tone is completely mismatched. I guess I'll beat it a punch and say I don't care about any of the shit at all.
And we are fully prepared to mobilize in a historic fashion in order to save this planet.
So basically, what you're saying is you're about to lose the midterms because you got caught sending pictures of your cooch to your porn star sheriff boyfriend. So now it's to your advantage to act on the comment.
Oh god, this will be fun. Let me make this clear. I understand what the movie is going for. I agree with a lot of what this movie is going for. It still does not make this enjoyable to watch in any capacity, or for the satire to hit me in a way that the film wanted to. Smug as fuck, extremely tunnel vision, and seems to be built to appraise the people who already agree with it, rather than trying to make a broader, more salient point about climate change and our reaction to it. Cathartic to be sure, but that does not a good satire make.
I know that. And I want to be rich, Mr. Lunyov. I want to be very fucking rich. And my bet is that $10 million, that's not such a big deal for you. But for me, that's a start. That's enough to be able to use money as a weapon.
Made a video about this one, so I won't go too much into it. Disaster of a film, taking a great premise and a really solid cast and is not doing anything with it so they can show off how cool the Gone Girl lady is.
Science is giving yourself the plague and gambling on the cure.
Science is reckless.
Totally! Yes! It's punk rock. It's a safety pin through the nipple of academia.
I'm jumping in while I'm editing this, and while I was editing, Ivan Reitman had sadly passed away, and this is it was a huge loss to the world of kind of comedic filmmaking and just film in general. He was a marvel and an incredibly talented man. He sadly be missed, and I'd be a lot of fondness for the first Ghostbusters, even if I didn't like this film. And this doesn't change my opinions of Afterlife, but it makes me feel a bit more comfortable railing on it so soon after he died in this video. If you want to get my opinions, you can just ask me on Twitter or whatever. But yeah, no, I hope his family are keeping well with this loss, and yeah, rest in peace. Especially because this movie was a lot about kind of the father and son relationship. I don't think the relationship was as bad as the one in this film per se, but that father son bond and him going back to frankly his father started there's that thread there, so it felt wrong for me to just kind of do this publicly. So yeah, going back to the list.
This is such a simple yet really cool premise for a horror film. It's a haunted house, but it's underwater. Also serving that is the fact that a lot of the shots here are taken by real-time diving. Utterly, painfully wasted with it, just it's totally generic, by the numbers haunting that doesn't do anything interesting with its setup. And two of the worst protagonists I have ever come across. Most of the horror would have worked better here if the two just shut up and let the scenes play out as is.
That's fundamental basketball.
Fundamental basketball. That's what I've been saying. Sam, shoot the ball. Let's try that again, shall we?
Oh boy, speaking of trends I wish to fuck off, mega conglomerates getting together to show off how much stuff they own in a film. And I don't think Space Jam is a particularly good film, but this one has the references dialed up to 19 in the most obnoxious, painfully self-serving way. We waited 25 years for a sequel and we got shit for thanks.
Is that what this is?
What?
Is what you're threatening. If I don't apologize, I'm going to lose you.
I'm not looking for an apology, Malcolm.
Well, what do you want, a screenplay credit?
Don't be cruel.
There was a whole thing about this pandemic shot film that was around the time. The fact that it's been just kind of forgotten about kind of speaks for itself. I don't care about the age difference between the two actors. I care that these two have absolutely no chemistry, and their tepid, languid, completely drawn out argument is not something that's compelling to watch, even if it's shot in black and white.
Fuck! Fuck!
This was such a terrible idea on paper, and they must have realized this by having the rapist fight against even bigger scumbags in some weird attempt to get you to root for him. And I really enjoyed The First Don't Breathe, but this one is more of a tulpa of that film, where they tried to milk the charm and menace out of this clearly one and done premise, and they really should have left it at that. Man, a lot of horror on the worst list this year. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is a great actor with a lot of gravitas, so putting him in the backdrop of the phenomenon of fate sightings, but with a horror twist, it's a pretty good idea. It's a pity this falls into being terribly overwrought, poorly presented, and mostly the spectral presence doesn't seem to do much aside of mildly annoy the characters until it finally gets to the climax. It's probably a bad sign of this film that the one thing I remember is that it mentions the two Fatima sisters who died shortly after the Saud of Virgin Mary. They both died from the Spanish flu, Not the media exposure as this film implies. Funny enough, there's actually a film about the Fatima sighting that was out last year. Wasn't great, but there you go. It's better than this.
Where we are?
Looks like some sort of slaughterhouse.
What do you think they want from us?
We're not alone.
This one I saw like really early on, and it's amazing that nearly a year later it still produces this ire in me. It's silly as all living hell and doing it in the dreariest way possible. Shit premise, shit characters, shit your execution, and one of the most mind-meltingly stupid climaxes I've seen all year. It's on a low budget one. I feel bad I'm putting it into the bottom 10, but that just kind of exemplifies how utterly shit this was.
My favorite son. Marriage is over.
Not very surprised.
Neither am I, really.
Papa, are you okay?
Yeah, everything's fine. Oh, jeez.
This one has a presentation that seems like it's really nailing what it's getting across, instead of just the complete fucking nonsense this actually is. Complete poor implementation of Leonard Cohen's songs, on top of a plot that's extremely awful but fails in just the most fascinating ways. You wonder if you'd really study on how not to do a character drama.
I know you. Don't I know you? I'm Sonia Kincaid. The mafia took my husband. We have to go get him.
No. I'm not getting involved in this. I'm under strict psychological order. Finally, Darius isn't haunting my dreams.
Come on, let's go.
The Hitman's Bodyguard surprisingly worked as well as it could have, mostly due to the chemistry of the two leads. So when you put another wrench in there, as fun as Salma Hayek is having, it's too much to add with this god-awful story with stupid twists and turns along the way. If you're going to make a sequel to an action movie, you could at least make the action fun. Are you happy, Resident Evil fans? You got an adaptation of the games. It sucks. Stop asking. You know, as bad as the Paul W. Anderson films are, and they are bad, they at least seem to know what they were. This is just a really confused train wreck that manages to be a really terrible send out of the games, as well as just being a tedious watch in general.
You know, like after the old lady's gone to sleep.
Yeah, but what if the kid wakes up? You know, kids are always running down in the middle of the night to see if Santa came.
What if I dress as Santa?
Home Alone is such a remarkable movie in that it's so timeless, and it's really just lightning in a bottle. In their 5th attempt to try to capture this, they do this like quasi-reboot quill kind of stuff that's popular right now, where it's kind of a reboot, but it's kind of not. Because right, we have a character, a random character from it, which really is shit cameo in general. And they also try to do a twist on the formula of the burglars and the kid, and it just results in making everyone here unlikable.
I see the way that you're all looking at me. I'm not crazy. I'm not hallucinating. Do I seem unreasonable? I have evidence. There was that picture that Jane drew and she signed, and there's a photograph that somebody took of me while I was sleeping. Look, it doesn't matter what you think about me. If you approve of me, if you think that I'm reliable, there is a boy in danger in that house. Just help him, please.
Can somebody please give Amy Adams an Oscar so she can stop starring in the shit? Like, the one good thing about Rear Window is that I felt like I was trapped in that room with James Stewart. I wanted to jump out the fucking window. Abysmal thriller, poorly paced and planned out with an appalling twist. Find better.
And for the purposes of this experiment, we'll use something more elemental. Your first kiss. Picture that moment.
Charlie Mulvaney.
The way young Charlie approached.
You know, I never actually watched Westwood, and I'm assuming it's better than this shit. I really hate sci-fi films that kind of hook on this premise, which seems kind of plausible, but because the world is built around this idea, it feels kind of ridiculous how much is squared into it, and I feel like this is the same with what they try to go for here. On top of that, there's this kind of quasi-noirish kind of thing they're going for, and it's just there with this terrible plot cul-de-sacs that kind of trample in on top of each other, and none of it really works. Everyone here has done and will do so much better.
No, you gotta go back to rehab.
I don't want to be in rehab. I want to be with you.
You can't be here with me.
That's not your decision to make.
Yes, it is my decision.
No, it's not your decision to make.
Yes, it is my decision.
It's not
Yes,
your
it
It
is.
is not your decision to make.
If I told you the directors of this film made two of the most financially successful and beloved films of the last 5 years, after you watched it, you'd laugh me out of the fucking room. It's such a desperate attempt of the Russos to try to capture legitimacy, but it's so poorly planned out with this offensive depiction of both drug dependency and codependent relationships. Every actor comes out of this looking embarrassed, but none more so look embarrassed than the director themselves. With this ugly looking, ugly feeling, hopelessly mean-spirited trash.
Marta, si nadie la quiere ayudar, ok, no va a pasar nada. Ahorita te marcamos. Ok. Me tengo que ir.
Y esta información se irá actualizando a lo largo del día conforme se vaya.
Hola, oficial.
Buenas tardes, ¿de dónde viene?
De acá, de Nubes. Tenemos que llegar a Periférico.
Retírese, no hay paso.
You know, I can rant about movies. I could talk about movies till the end of my days, both good and bad, but there are very few movies that actually fucking offend me, so fair play for the filmmakers for doing that. This is so revealing of the personal politics of the people involved in this, but it's done in a way that's so dull and tiring. Not only am I annoyed by what they're trying to get across, I'm bored as hell by this really flat, lifeless thriller. It's so tiringly aggressive, and it's clearly trying to get under your skin in this really shocking way. I'm not moved. I'm not shocked. I'm annoyed and angered that they even thought this incredible fucking train wreck was a decent way to get across whatever they are trying in this ungodly mess.
Drug dealer?
Drug dealer? Is that you? Are you the drug dealer?
Yes. Hi.
Can I be of service? Hi.
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 She's the drug dealer.
Yeah, she's the drug dealer.
So yeah, I actually made a podcast talking about this, so if you want my thoughts on it, go see that. And I know Sia has actually come out saying that she's had a lot of mental health issues because of this. And let me be clear, I don't think her mental health should be pushed back because she made a bad movie. I'm worried about the effects that this film can have and the harmful things it pushes across. It's still shit, it's still bad, but she shouldn't be getting harassment for it, but still. This shows that you should be really careful about your depictions, especially of something like autism, where a lot of stereotypes can be pushed across from it. I also don't feel like she handled this incredibly well, so I know I still think this movie is awful. I think this movie is terrible. It's dangerous, and the myths it pushes across have been thoroughly debunked, especially the whole use of restraint. And yeah, this was the worst film I saw in this bollock stain of a year. Signing out.